Stop for a moment and ask yourself a question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Why is it that one careless word from another person can ruin an entire day? Why can a single insult echo in your mind for years, while 100 compliments disappear within hours? Why do certain people seem to possess an invisible key capable of unlocking your anger, your fear, your insecurity, and your peace whenever they choose? The uncomfortable truth is that many people are not living their own lives. They are living emotional reactions to everyone else's behavior. Their happiness rises and falls according to the opinions of strangers. Their confidence depends on approval they cannot control. Their peace survives only until someone decides to criticize, manipulate, ignore, betray, or misunderstand them. Without realizing it, they have handed the steering wheel of their inner world to people who neither deserve nor appreciate that power. Perhaps you have experienced this yourself. You wake up feeling calm and optimistic. Then one message changes everything. Someone dismisses your effort. A colleague speaks to you with disrespect. A family member reminds you of an old mistake. A friend suddenly becomes distant. Instantly, your thoughts begin racing. You replay every conversation. You invent arguments that never happened. You imagine future confrontations. Hours pass. Sometimes entire days disappear inside an emotional storm created by another person's actions. Now consider something astonishing. More than 2,000 years ago, long before social media, before instant communication, before endless public opinion, philosophers observed exactly the same human weakness. Human technology has changed beyond recognition. Human psychology has barely changed at all. The Stoics discovered something extraordinary. The greatest prison was never built with stone walls or iron bars. It was built inside the mind of anyone who allowed external people to determine internal peace. They understood that the most dangerous form of slavery was emotional dependence. The moment another person's behavior dictates your emotional state, your freedom quietly disappears. This wisdom shaped emperors, generals, statesmen, and thinkers who faced betrayal, humiliation, war, exile, poverty, and constant uncertainty. They did not become peaceful because life treated them kindly. They became peaceful because they refused to allow circumstances or toxic people to become rulers of their minds. Today, that lesson is more necessary than ever. We live in a culture that encourages constant reaction. Every notification demands attention. Every disagreement becomes a battle. Every criticism feels like a verdict on our worth. We are taught to defend ourselves endlessly, explain ourselves constantly, and prove ourselves to everyone. Yet the harder we fight for approval, the further peace slips away. Stoicism offers a completely different path. It does not promise that toxic people will disappear. It does not guarantee that others will suddenly become fair, honest, respectful, or compassionate. Instead, it teaches something infinitely more valuable. It teaches that your peace was never supposed to depend on their behavior in the first place. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire filled with political enemies, deception, and endless conflict. Every day he encountered people driven by envy, greed, arrogance, selfishness, and ambition. Yet he reminded himself each morning that such people were inevitable. He did not waste precious energy wishing they were different. He prepared himself to remain different. That distinction changes everything. Most people wake up hoping the world will cooperate with their expectations. The Stoic wakes up expecting challenges and deciding in advance how to respond. One mindset depends on luck, the other depends on character. Imagine carrying a beautiful glass filled with clear water through a crowded marketplace. Every person who bumps into you causes the water to spill. Eventually, the glass becomes empty. This is how most people carry their peace. Every rude comment, every disappointment, every act of disrespect spills a little more until nothing remains. The Stoic asks a different question. Instead of wondering how to stop people from bumping into him, he learns to carry something that cannot easily spill: Peace becomes internal instead of borrowed. This begins with one of the most powerful ideas ever conceived, the dichotomy of control. At first glance, it sounds almost too simple. Separate everything in life into two categories: the things you control and the things you do not. You control your choices, your values, your effort, your discipline, your honesty, your reactions, and your character. You do not control another person's opinions, emotions, actions, intentions, loyalty, honesty, timing, or judgment. Most suffering begins when these two categories become confused. Consider how much mental energy disappears every day trying to manage what belongs to someone else. We try to control how others perceive us. We try to force respect from people who enjoy disrespecting others. We try to make dishonest people become truthful. We try to convince jealous people to celebrate our success. We try to explain ourselves to those committed to misunderstanding us. Each attempt steals another piece of our peace. Epictetus understood this better than almost anyone. Born into slavery, he possessed almost no control over external circumstances. Yet he became one of history's greatest teachers because he realized that freedom begins where control over oneself begins. He repeatedly reminded his students that if they attached their happiness to things outside themselves, disappointment was inevitable. Think about how revolutionary that idea remains today. Suppose someone insults you publicly. Most people immediately believe the insult has harmed them. But has it? Words entered your ears, that is all. The suffering begins only after the mind accepts the insult as truth, or treats it as something requiring endless emotional investment. The toxic person throws a spark. Your imagination builds the fire. This does not mean becoming emotionless. Stoicism never demanded emotional numbness. It demanded emotional mastery. There is an enormous difference. The Stoic still feels disappointment, still feels sadness, still experiences frustration, but those emotions become visitors rather than permanent residents. They arrive, they teach, and they leave. They are never allowed to become dictators, ruling every decision. Toxic people survive because they understand a secret that most victims never recognize. Attention is fuel, reaction is reward, emotional chaos is victory. Some people seek power not through achievement, but through provoking others. They cannot build themselves, so they attempt to reduce everyone around them. They cannot create peace, so they manufacture conflict. They cannot control their own emotions, so they try to control yours. Every angry response confirms their influence. Every desperate explanation feeds their confidence. Every emotional outburst tells them they still possess access to your inner world. The Stoics refused to grant that access. Silence became a form of strength, not because they lacked arguments, not because they feared confrontation, but because they understood that not every invitation deserves acceptance. Imagine someone standing outside your home shouting insults all night. Would you invite them inside simply because they demanded your attention? Of course not. Yet mentally, many people do exactly that every day. Someone insults them in the morning, and the stranger occupies their thoughts until bedtime. Someone criticizes their appearance, and those words rent space inside the mind for months. Someone betrays their trust, and years later the betrayal still dictates their emotional state. The person left long ago. The prison remained. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that another person's wrongdoing belonged to them, not to him. Their dishonesty stained their own character. Their cruelty revealed their own condition. If he answered injustice with hatred, then he willingly adopted the very disease he wished to avoid. This perspective demands extraordinary discipline because the human ego craves immediate revenge. We want the perfect response, the flawless argument, the devastating comeback, the public victory. But ask yourself honestly, how many arguments have actually brought lasting peace? How many emotional battles have truly satisfied you? Usually they create only temporary relief, followed by deeper exhaustion. The Stoics understood that winning every argument often meant losing yourself. Character mattered more than being declared right. Imagine an oak tree standing through a violent storm. The wind screams, rain pounds every branch, lightning flashes overhead. Yet the tree remains rooted because its strength comes from beneath the surface rather than from favorable weather. Your character must become those roots. If your confidence depends on compliments, criticism will destroy it. If your identity depends on popularity, rejection will terrify you. If your peace depends on respectful treatment, toxic people will always find a way to disturb you. But if your foundation rests upon your own principles, external chaos loses much of its power. This is why Stoicism places such enormous emphasis on daily self-examination. Each evening, the Stoics asked themselves difficult questions. Did I act with integrity? Did I remain patient under pressure? Did I allow anger to master me? Did I behave according to my values rather than my impulses? Notice what they did not ask. They did not ask whether everyone liked them. They did not ask whether they defeated every critic. They did not ask whether they received enough recognition. Their attention remained fixed upon the only courtroom that truly mattered, the judgment of their own conscience. This internal standard creates a remarkable kind of freedom. Imagine walking through life without needing constant reassurance. Imagine accomplishing meaningful work without announcing every step. Imagine refusing to argue with people committed to misunderstanding you. Imagine smiling quietly while others waste years competing for attention that never satisfies them. That is not weakness, that is sovereignty. Modern culture mistakes visibility for value. The Stoics knew better. A seed grows underground long before anyone sees the tree. The strongest foundations remain invisible. The deepest rivers often flow silently. Likewise, the strongest individuals rarely feel compelled to advertise every intention. They understand another timeless principle. Protect your peace by protecting your purpose. Not everyone deserves access to your plans. Not everyone celebrates your growth. Some people ask questions not because they support you, but because they wish to measure how to discourage you. Others appear encouraging while quietly hoping you fail. This is why unnecessary disclosure can become an invitation to unnecessary interference. The Stoics practiced strategic silence. Silence was never emptiness, it was disciplined restraint. Every plan shared prematurely becomes vulnerable to doubt. Every dream exposed too early becomes vulnerable to criticism. Every ambition announced before action risks becoming performance instead of progress. The truly disciplined individual speaks less and builds more. They understand that results create a language critics cannot easily argue against. There is another reason toxic people lose influence over the Stoic. The Stoic refuses to become emotionally predictable. Manipulation depends upon certainty. If someone knows exactly which words will provoke you, they possess leverage. If they know jealousy controls you, they can exploit comparison. If they know praise controls you, they can manipulate approval. If they know fear controls you, they can manufacture anxiety. But what happens when none of those buttons work anymore? The manipulator becomes powerless, not because they changed, because you did. This transformation never happens overnight. It is built through countless invisible decisions. Choosing patience instead of impulse, choosing reflection instead of reaction, choosing discipline instead of comfort, choosing principles instead of popularity. Every one of these choices strengthens the mind the way repeated exercise strengthens the body. Eventually, situations that once shattered your peace become little more than passing inconveniences. You notice the insult, but do not carry it. You observe the manipulation, but do not participate. You recognize the disrespect, but refuse to imitate it. That is the beginning of genuine freedom. And once a person discovers that their peace cannot be purchased with approval, stolen by criticism, or destroyed by toxic people, they possess something the world can no longer easily take away. When that realization finally takes root, something extraordinary begins to happen. The world itself does not become quieter. Toxic people do not suddenly disappear. Critics do not wake up one morning transformed into admirers. Difficult conversations still arrive. Disappointments still unfold. Unexpected betrayals still cut deeply. Yet inside you, an entirely different landscape begins to emerge. You stop expecting peace to come from favorable circumstances, because you discover that lasting peace has always been an internal discipline rather than an external reward. This is the meaning behind one of the most misunderstood Stoic principles, amor fati, the love of fate. Many hear those words and imagine passive acceptance, as though the Stoics believed people should simply surrender to whatever life delivered. Nothing could be further from the truth. To love fate is not to enjoy suffering. It is to recognize that every event, pleasant or painful, contains raw material for becoming stronger. The obstacle is never merely something standing in your way. It becomes the very path by which your character is tested, refined, and revealed. Think of iron entering a furnace. The fire is not the enemy of the metal. It is the process through which strength is forged. Without heat, iron remains ordinary. Without pressure, it never becomes a sword. Human beings are no different. Comfort may feel pleasant, but adversity shapes the soul. Every disappointment asks a question that comfort never can. Who are you when life refuses to cooperate with your expectations? Toxic people unknowingly become part of this process. The difficult coworker teaches patience. The dishonest friend teaches discernment. The manipulative relative teaches healthy boundaries. The unfair competitor teaches emotional resilience. The harsh critic teaches independence from public opinion. Without realizing it, the people who attempt to disturb your peace become unwilling instructors in your personal development. Their actions remain their responsibility. Your response becomes yours. The Stoic understands that while he cannot choose every teacher life provides, he can choose whether each lesson strengthens or weakens his character. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that fire consumes whatever is thrown into it and transforms it into more fuel. That image contains remarkable psychological wisdom. Most people allow adversity to consume them. The Stoic consumes adversity instead. Every insult becomes another opportunity to practice restraint. Every setback becomes another opportunity to strengthen discipline. Every failure becomes another opportunity to sharpen wisdom. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoic quietly asks, "How can this become useful?" That single question changes the direction of an entire life. Consider how differently two people may experience the exact same event. Both lose an important opportunity. One spends months complaining about unfairness, replaying every detail, blaming circumstances, and sinking deeper into bitterness. The other reflects, adapts, studies mistakes, strengthens weaknesses, and prepares for the next opportunity. Externally, they experienced the same obstacle. Internally, they lived completely different realities. The event did not determine the outcome. Their interpretation did. This is why Stoicism insists that perception is one of the greatest powers a human being possesses. Between every external event and every emotional reaction exists a small but priceless space. Inside that space lives choice. Most people move through life so quickly that they never notice it. Stimulus arrives, reaction follows instantly. Someone insults them, and anger explodes. Someone ignores them, and insecurity appears. Someone succeeds, and envy awakens. The Stoic slows the process. He notices the space. Inside that brief moment, freedom exists. Inside that moment, character is formed. Every pause before reacting is an act of self-mastery. Every deliberate response weakens the habits that once controlled you. Eventually, your emotional life stops being dictated by impulse and starts being guided by principle. That transformation cannot be purchased, it cannot be borrowed, it cannot be taught through motivational slogans alone. It is earned through daily practice, often in moments so ordinary that no one else even notices them. The world celebrates dramatic victories, but Stoicism celebrates invisible ones, choosing not to answer an insult, walking away from unnecessary conflict, remaining calm when others expect outrage, working quietly while others chase attention, keeping promises made only to yourself. These victories rarely receive applause, yet together they build an unshakable character. One of the greatest misunderstandings about strength is the belief that powerful people dominate others. History repeatedly proves otherwise. Those obsessed with controlling others often reveal their inability to control themselves. True strength has always begun within. A person who cannot govern anger, fear, jealousy, pride, or desire will eventually become a servant to each of them, regardless of how successful they appear on the surface. Seneca observed that the greatest empire anyone can rule is the empire of the self. That sentence becomes more profound with each passing year. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen because leaders conquered nations before conquering their own impulses. Wealth disappears, fame fades, power changes hands, character remains. Ask yourself honestly, if every compliment stopped tomorrow, would you still know your worth? If nobody applauded your efforts, would you continue your work? If your progress remained invisible for years, would you maintain your discipline? These questions separate genuine confidence from borrowed confidence. Borrowed confidence depends upon witnesses. Real confidence depends upon integrity. The Stoics understood that your relationship with yourself is the longest relationship you will ever have. If you betray your own values for temporary approval, no amount of external praise will quiet the voice of your conscience. But if you remain faithful to your principles, even unjust criticism loses its ability to shake you. This is why they valued consistency over reputation. Reputation belongs to other people. Character belongs to you. Reputation changes with rumors. Character changes only with your choices. Reputation can be stolen. Character must be surrendered willingly. Once this distinction becomes clear, an extraordinary calm begins to replace anxiety. You stop chasing every opportunity to defend your image because you realize your image exists inside other people's minds, where you have never possessed control anyway. Some people will misunderstand you despite your honesty. Others will dislike you despite your kindness. Some will invent stories because the truth does not satisfy their expectations. Let them. The Stoic recognizes that not every misunderstanding requires correction. Sometimes silence protects dignity more effectively than endless explanation. Sometimes walking away demonstrates greater confidence than winning an argument ever could. This does not mean becoming indifferent to justice. It means becoming selective with your energy. Your time is finite, your attention is precious. Every unnecessary battle steals both. Imagine reaching the end of your life and realizing you spent decades trying to convince people determined never to understand you. What an enormous waste of existence that would be. Instead, imagine spending those same decades refining your character, serving those who genuinely matter, mastering your mind, and building a life whose quiet integrity speaks louder than endless words ever could. That is the Stoic path. It is not glamorous. It is not always easy. It often feels lonely because it asks you to abandon habits that most of society encourages. But its rewards are unlike anything external success can provide. A peaceful mind, a disciplined spirit, a conscience free from regret, an identity rooted in principles rather than popularity, and perhaps most importantly, freedom from those who once controlled your emotions without even realizing it. Remember this whenever someone attempts to provoke you. They are offering you a choice, not a command. You may accept the invitation to anger, or you may decline it. You may carry their negativity for days, or you may leave it where it belongs. You may surrender your peace to someone who has done nothing to earn it, or you may protect it as your most valuable possession. Every day, life places this decision before you in countless small moments. Your future will not be determined by one dramatic event. It will be shaped by those quiet choices, repeated again and again until they become your nature. One day, you will notice something remarkable. The people who once had the power to disturb you no longer occupy your thoughts. The criticism that once kept you awake at night barely deserves a passing glance. The manipulation that once trapped you now appears obvious and ineffective. The chaos around you continues exactly as before. But within you, there is stillness. That stillness is not weakness. It is not indifference. It is not emotional coldness. It is the quiet confidence of someone who finally understands that peace is not something the world gives. It is something disciplined people refuse to surrender. So the next time a toxic person tries to steal your calm, remember the wisdom that has endured for more than 2,000 years. They may control their words, they may control their actions, they may even influence the opinions of those around them. But they cannot control your character unless you hand it to them. Guard that truth carefully, protect it daily, strengthen it through discipline, live it through action. And over time, you will discover that the greatest victory was never defeating toxic people. It was becoming the kind of person they could no longer defeat.